A lot to get to on this Tuesday. Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller. Happy to have you along. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment on all of our social media pages. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure to follow Media Row Podcast. Justin Miller here. Happy to welcome you. Anyone who's new, welcome to the Media Row Podcast. I know we're still getting a few more new listeners, which I really appreciate. And anyone that stuck around, thank you as well, too. So a lot to get to today, as you know, we have some AP poll stuff. I want to get to Drake men's basketball, have a few players that get rewarded for Player of the Week, and then Drake women, just talk about the success they've had last week, because we didn't get to go and get in depth with them yesterday, so making sure we're talking about them today. And then just a little housekeeping. I'm going to really try hard to make sure we get a show out tomorrow, but here's the deal. So we're getting that crazy 6 to 9 inches of snow tomorrow, supposedly, and it looks more than likely it will happen. And I've been tasked, and I had a feeling this was going to happen, so blame second winter on my dad. So my dad and his girlfriend are going to the Bahamas. And I'm like, great, awesome. I must have missed my invite. I don't know where it's at. But so they're going to the Bahamas for a vacation. And my dad's like, hey, I don't think it's supposed to snow, but if it does, can you make sure you shovel your grandparents and my driveway too? And I said, yeah, no problem. Well, now 6 of 9 inches is coming. And maybe you can write in the comments for me, because here's the deal. Like, yeah, I grew up as a kid, and I'd help shovel once in a great while, but my dad always did it. And I'd help my grandparents once in a great while too, but mostly my dad did it. And so is it better to just wait until all the snow comes down and then I'm done, like just deal with the whatever fell and get it all done at once, or keep going back and forth? Like, do I go in the morning, shovel it, and then I go in the early afternoon, and then in the afternoon? Like, is that the best way to do it, or just do it all at once? But then you risk, like, ice building up and stuff. So I don't know. I'm just going to play it by ear. I'll make sure to put out on socials if we're not able to get a show up, because, the talking part's easy for me. I can talk into this mic all day, and not sure people would want to listen to that, but I could. The hard part is the editing. That takes forever, and I'm just a one-man show over here. I mean, what you see is what you get. So, going to try to get a show out as hard as possible, but if not, I'll make sure to put it out on our socials, so make sure to follow along. And I'll try to keep everyone updated in case there isn't a show. But that being said, we still have a lot to get to today. Tomorrow, Drake takes on, they hit the road to face Illinois State. And so we'll want to preview that tomorrow if we can. And so, yeah, a lot to get to. But yesterday I ended the show talking about how I wanted to get on kind of my soapbox. And once again, Drake was left out of the top 25, only getting 21 votes. Really shocked, only one coach's vote. That surprises me. Getting left out of the top 25, understand. Low on the votes, a little, kind of understand it, but the teams ahead of them, I don't really understand as well. Not all of them, but some of them. The one lone coach's vote is really surprising to me, because usually you would think coaches would recognize what Ben McCollum is doing and try to help him out a little. I don't know. That one surprised me. But what I want to get on my soapbox about, and what I'm kind of ticked off about, and this is going to show my fandom, I get it. But I have a hard time coming to terms with all these bracketologists, and I'm just using Joel Lenardi. I know he may not be the best, but I'm using him because he's the most famous one. He's the one that ESPN, that's their Bible. But Joe Lunardi has 8 teams ahead of Drake right now. Vanderbilt ahead of Drake. Texas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Georgia. Those are just a handful I grabbed. And I have issues with every single one of them being voted ahead of Drake and making it seem like they would either be a first 4 out or last 4 in kind of scenario for these teams. When in my head, I get that they have Drake down as an automatic qualifier, but that's just because Drake is number 1 in the Missouri Valley. If Bradley was number 1 in the Missouri Valley, they're the automatic qualifier. And Drake's left out. Just like, look at Bradley's not on this list at all. But it just hurts because I feel like there's a way where you could allow these mid-majors, if they have 2 teams that have won 20-plus games and have a good quad 1 record, how do you leave them out? How do you leave them out? So going through these teams, number 1, Vanderbilt voted over Drake. They play in the toughest conference. They've been really good in that conference, but not great against quad 1. 2-5 versus quad 1. Oh, and not to remind you, but Drake already beat Vandy. So does head-to-head not really matter as much? I guess not. Texas, who's one of the most disappointing teams, still continuing to get love. They're in the net right now at 31. Drake is net 57, but they're 3-7 versus quad 1. Drake, remind you, is 2-0. And we always hear about, if Alabama was struggling, North Carolina, you can't blame a team for who they play. Okay, so can we not blame Drake for who they play? I mean, what is going on? We always hear that, like, if a team is undefeated and someone mentions their schedule, can't blame them for who they play. They don't have control over that. They just win. Drake doesn't have control of who they play. They had to wait until the last second to really get their schedule finalized and ready to go. And you know what they're doing? They're just winning. And then you have Oklahoma, 4-6 versus quad 1, 44 in the net. Then North Carolina gets destroyed last night on the road against Clemson, 1-10 versus quad 1 teams. And then Georgia, 2-8 versus quad 1. And I don't have a huge problem with all those teams. Texas is probably the one I have the biggest problem with. But what I have issues with is you could have 2 Missouri Valley Conference teams with 20-plus wins, one of them's being kicked out because they're going to put in 10 Big Ten teams. Right now, they're projecting 10 Big Ten teams in the NCAA, and only half have over a 500 record against quad 1. I don't have all the answers, but I know this. The eyeball test doesn't show me 10 teams in the Big Ten deserve to be in there. I get the SEC leading. SEC is a gauntlet. I mean, an SEC team is winning the national title, in my opinion, at this point. But I don't have all the answers. But I feel like there's maybe 6 or so teams in the Big Ten that deserve. And then I just have a hard time coming to terms with there's 6 or so teams in the Big Ten more deserving than Drake. And then they have UNC. It's just all about brands. It's just all about brands and money. But what it does is it's something you can't really change. It's the way the NCAA has been. I've said it 1,000 times. When Indiana State missed out last year by losing a close championship game to Drake, that was the moment the Missouri Valley was no longer a 2-bid league. That was the moment. It was dead. And now Drake just can't stub their toe. You're just going to have to, you don't have to win out in the regular season, but you have to win it all in March. You have to win it all in St. Louis. That's your only way of getting in right now, by the way of the bracketologists. by the experts that a 20-win, brand new head coach, brand new team that just is storming their way through the conference is going to get in. It seems wrong. And again, I don't have the answers, because can you make an argument for all those teams being better than Drake? You could. Some, I think, would be harder than others. But it pains me as a fan, but also just a fan of basketball as a whole. You want to see teams deserve to get in. There has to be something we can do to make it not easier, but make it more fair to the mid-majors. There has to be a way. 10 Big Ten teams? No way. No shot. You watch a Big Ten game and find me 10 teams that deserve to be in there. I would say Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, of course, and then maybe Wisconsin. Those would be my teams right now. Oregon, not super stoked about. Yeah, they were in the top 25 for a while, but then they haven't been great in conference play. UCLA, kind of on the same level. Ohio State, you can't figure out which Ohio State team's going to show up. Is it going to be the team that has beaten top 15 teams, or is it the team that can't shoot a three and gets blown out? I don't know. I don't think the Big Ten is as strong as they try to make themselves out to be. I think Michigan State is going to roll through that conference tournament. And I think Purdue could put up... Actually, I'm going to step back a little. I think Michigan State is going to win that conference. Purdue will put up a fight. Purdue's a well-coached team. Purdue will put up a fight. But Michigan's good, but they struggled against a Indiana team. They have Indiana over Drake, which blows me away. Indiana, I watch them, and I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed. But I'll step off my soapbox. I know that was a heated way to start a podcast, but just again, watching what's unfolding ahead of March, it's just so unfair. I mean, Akron has the largest win streak right now, and it's basically like, yeah, you better win your conference. You don't win, you're not going in. That's so unfair. And how do you recruit? How do you keep guys as a mid-major if you can win 25 games, lose 3 or whatever, and not make the NCAA tournament? It's hard. It is a hard life as a mid-major. But moving forward, want to give a shout out to Bennett Sturts because he just continues to dominate. Yesterday, voted the newcomer of the week at 21.5 points per game, 5.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, 1 steal, and shooting an efficient 48% from the field. Bennett Sturts, I put out a tweet that got a lot of traction last night, just talking about how at this point, just give him the Larry Bird trophy, right? It has to be unanimous. No way someone else is taking another player over Bennett Sturts. Had Illinois State fans talking about how, hey, I would love for Chase Walker to get it, but it has to be Bennett Sturts. And I agree. And I love Chase Walker. We had that talk right before the game at the Knapp Center about Chase Walker. Love his post footwork. His footwork is really good. And a strong big man that can nail down free throws. I like me some Chase Walker. I think he's really good. But yeah, Bennett Sturts, you have to. It's unanimous at this point. I think even if they lose the regular season title, if they don't even win the conference tournament, I still think he's the player of the year. But so wanted to give a quick shout out to Bennett Sturts, who continues to dominate for Drake. Drake women's basketball, though, what most of the show is going to be about. They've won 4 straight. They won by 5 against Illinois State in that football matchup. Man, it was aggressive and physical. And then cruise past Bradley 72-52. And just going to break down what has Drake done so well lately. And number one is ball movement. This team all season long has been really efficient with getting players involved, getting players moving without the ball so the point guards can find them. All season long, they've been really good at moving the ball. And we had that stretch where I think it was like 5 games where they had over 20 some assists in a row. But during that losing stretch of 3 games in a row, which was very rare, it was also rare to see Drake not passing the ball around. It was very much so Anna Miller, Katie Dennebeer leading the way. And it still is that way. But for the most part, they're getting others involved. They're moving the ball around. And right now, the ball movement has been incredible. They're averaging 20.5 team assists. That's great. If you're doing that, it is really hard to lose games because that means it's not just sticking with one player. It's the whole team contributing. And then when you look at that, that just leads to easy shots, and that shows why their efficiency is so high up. They're shooting 50% in both of those games against Bradley and Illinois State. And when you're leading to those easy buckets, the defense, then you're also not as tired on the defensive end. And when you have Drake, who plays such a stout, tough, physical defense, they rely on those transition points so much. That was something I saw and noticed when they were losing those 3 games that they weren't doing, and it was huge, was just them not getting transition points. And that has not been the deal. They outscored Bradley in transition 20-0, 18-4 against Illinois State, averaging 19 transition points a game. Allison Pullman has this team on a trajectory that they're hitting their stride again at the right time, at the right moment. End of February, right there before March, right there before they head to St. Louis. But another thing that's just been huge, and it's part of the team assist, is just how it's not Dennebeer, it's not Miller always. There's still the go-tos, and it should be that way. Every team has their go-to players. Drake men, sure, they have some good depth, but when the game's on the line, we saw it against Indiana State, it's put the ball into Sturt's hands and get the hell out of the way and let him work. For the Drake women, it's give it to Katie Dennebeer. She knows what to do in the 4th quarter. And the coaches and players trust her. And then sometimes Anna Miller, too, with her veteranship and leadership. But a player that has really stepped into her own, and a player that has taken Des Moines by the palm of her hand, has been Abby Alsma. The transfer from Illinois State has been incredible and vital to Drake's success in the last few weeks. She is shooting 58% from the field. She's getting it done on the defensive end, has 6 steals in a 4-game stretch, and has scored 57 points in the last 4 games. That is huge when you have a player like Katie Dennebeer who's averaging 20, and you have a player like Anna Miller who's averaging around 14, 15 a game, maybe 14 to 16 a game. And then you have so many other players capable of putting up 10 plus. Ava Hawthorne, who continues to impress me, and I still will fight for her to be the 6th player of the year. I mean, she is incredible on both ends of the ball. And then you have younger players growing. Brooklyn Daly looks better. You have Taylor, the big freshman. She's looking stronger. She's not dropping as many passes, is what Coach Pullman was saying that she's really proud of, is that they can rely on her more now. And then you have your transfer in Abby Alsma just starting to dominate and starting to be a go-to. As like the game starts, they're looking for her. It's not, give it to Katie, dump it down to Anna, let's get some points on the board. It's let's get the offense moving, kick it out to Abby in the corner. She'll knock down the 3, maybe 2 more times too down the court. She has been incredible, and she's so easy to talk to. This whole team, if you haven't gone out and watched a Drake women's game, you need to do it here soon. because we're not going to have this team much longer. Katie's going to graduate. Anna Miller's going to graduate. Courtney Becker's going to graduate. You have to try to go out and see this team. They're so easy to cheer for. Allison Pullman is a great leader. Might be one of the best I've seen. And it is just a great team to cheer for. The whole bench is improving. Every player is growing into their own. Katie Dinnebier continues to amaze me every night. Anna Miller is getting stronger in the post day by day. Her defense will always be strong. This is a great team, and you better go watch them. So you have a lot to root for with this Drake women's team, but Abby Alsma quickly becoming one of my favorite players. Like I said, the whole bench improving with Brooklyn Daly. Had kind of a moment when she knocked down an open three against Illinois State where it hit me kind of like the Isaiah Jackson moment that I was talking about yesterday, where earlier in the year she's passing that ball up. She doesn't have that confidence to take that shot. But now, like Abby Alsma said on last Wednesday's press conference for the Des Moines Hometown Team Weekend, was this team builds each other up. Like, if you miss a shot, they're not just done with you. They're going to help you improve. And that's what Brooklyn Daly, I think, is starting to grow from, and knocks down that three early in the game against a physical Illinois State team, a rival team, and you just see her confidence grow day by day. So really excited to watch her grow. Katie Dinnebier continues to make history. Second player in Missouri Valley Conference history to collect 700-plus assists after having yet again her 12th or 13th double-double against Bradley over the weekend. And now I think the only Drake Bulldog to have that many assists is Caitlin Engel, is right above her, former Southeast Polk Ram. So just continues to move up the history book. She's been incredible since she started wearing the blue and white. But this Drake team, this women's team, we've talked about how the men, after these past few years, have built a culture of winning. The women have had a culture of winning for a while. You had Coach Jenny before she left for Oklahoma. I mean, I didn't get to see Drake play in March if it wasn't for the women. I mean, the Drake men were not good at that time. The women were really fun to watch with Caitlin Engel and all those players. But with that win against Bradley, Drake now has had their 16th straight season with 15-plus wins and 12th straight season with now 9-plus games won in the Missouri Valley Conference. That is called culture of winning. Right there. That's how you do it. And Drake didn't have to go out to find their new coach when Jenny left. They just went down the line and found Pullman on the assistant roster. And Pullman has, I hope she just stays a Drake Bulldog forever. But at the same time, you want to see her grow. And you want to see what she can do with, higher recruiting and, more NIL money. I mean, it's no lie that Drake is not a top dog when it comes to NIL funds. I mean, they're doing really good. I mean, to be honest, for a mid-major, I think Drake is doing actually really good with the NIL situation and what they were able to do with Tucker. And now you see Katie in commercials, more players getting involved in that. And so it's no lie, though, that you would have better opportunities if you go to a Big 10, Big 12, whatever school. But my fandom wants Allison Pullman to stay there forever and just continue to build on this culture of winning. But to wrap up today's show, let's go into the women's Missouri Valley Conference standings because, of course, we talked about the men yesterday. For the women, you have Belmont sitting right there in first place with an 11-1 conference record. They've won 10 straight. The Bruins, against Drake, handled the Bulldogs on the road. They have the player of the week right now in Kendall Chessman, 56% from the field, 40% from deep, 21 points last week. And then the 2-win streak, Missouri State Bears are in second with a 10-2 record. They have the freshman of the week on their roster, and Laney Douglas, 20 points versus Indiana State last week. Then Drake and Murray State tied for third. Drake has won 4 straight with their 9-3 conference record. Murray State, who beat Drake earlier in Des Moines, 15-6 overall, 9-3 in the conference. Illinois State starting to fall down a little, but they're in 4th place right now, losing 2 in a row, 8-4 in the conference, and then winning 2 straight. You have UNI to round out your top 5 with a 7-5 conference record. So still the Missouri Valley, you have the two Iowa schools in the top 5, which is always cool to see. But that Belmont team is really tough, and Drake was so close to beating Missouri State on the road. So Drake has a tough hill to climb to try to win that 3rd straight Missouri Valley Conference title. But like I said, starting to figure some things out, make some adjustments at the right time. Tomorrow, again, we'll try to get a show out. If we do, we'll have a Missouri Valley Conference recap from the 2 games tonight. Also preview Drake at Illinois State. Ask maybe Katie Dinnebeer who she roots for because her boyfriend plays for Illinois State. So it's always fun to have that conversation. But yeah, that's kind of the plan for tomorrow. Again, I will keep you all updated on what happens here hopefully soon. And yeah, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate all the new feedback and all the new comments and listeners and ratings. Always appreciate that. But make sure to follow us on social media and have a great day. Stay safe tomorrow with the snow coming in. Hopefully a lot of snow days, so have some fun with the family. Snow days are the best, where you can just not care about anything and watch movies all day. Have a great time. Get some hot chocolate maybe. Megan and I might do that. She works at an elementary school, so she's hoping she gets a snow day, and maybe I'll today after I work out go grab some hot chocolate for us as well. So stay safe tomorrow. Have a great one, and make sure to join us again at 2 o'clock for the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller.